What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? It's prediction time, telling you how many games I think the D-backs are going to win, how many home runs Corbin Carroll is going to hit, and so much more on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Merl Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, merlthomas24.myportfolio.com to see all my latest work. We are going to do so many predictions on this podcast. I got bold predictions. I got small predictions for you guys. So we're going to talk about individuals, teams, the whole league, all on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. So big prediction pod for me today. But before we even get into the pod, I need to say thank you to everyone who makes Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day, because you guys did it. My goal the entire offseason was to hit 1,000 subscribers before opening day. You guys were able to make that happen. Also, shout out Jordan Montgomery, because I think he helped the signing at the 48th hour of the offseason, getting to do an instant reaction video to that. I think it definitely helped. But you guys are the true superstars and MVPs of this podcast, the audience. Thank you guys for listening and following along with me on this journey every single day. But now, let's get back into the podcast. And again, don't forget to hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. And we're on all your streaming platforms as well. So check out Locked on Diamondbacks wherever. But now let's get into the predictions. But actually, before we even get into the predictions, some news. Jordan Lawlar underwent, I think, right thumb surgery or some kind of surgery on his hand. He's going to be out potentially a couple months. That definitely hurts. Dbacks future superstar Jordan Lawlar, who potentially was going to get a call up at some point this year. I mean, D-backs want to get him everyday at bats. He was going to start the year in AAA and get those everyday at bats. But now with him being out, does this mean Blaze Alexander goes back to AAA and starts there? Maybe, but maybe that's not the worst case scenario. Maybe Blaze starts the year in AAA, gets those everyday bats, looks really good, and then when Jordan Lawlar's ready to go, then you call Blaze up when he's already gone to a little groove in the minor league season. So don't know what the D-backs are going to do there. Maybe Blaze still makes the opening day roster and they go with a different option in Reno for their shortstop position. So just want to point out Jordan Lawlar's hurt. He's going to be out a couple months. Another injury for the young future superstar, but nothing to be too concerned with. Again, it's not like his shoulder again. It's not like a torn ACL. Like, you never want to see your guy undergo surgery and miss time, but a little hand surgery, I think it was probably the best case scenario for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But now let's actually talk about predictions. I broke this pod up into 3 segments: individual predictions, team predictions, and then league predictions. And so we're going to start off with the individual predictions. First one I have, and this is not just because we are dropping a one-on-one with him tomorrow. Shout out Zac Gallen. We have a one-on-one interview, getting to know Zac Gallen tomorrow. We talk about where's the best place in Arizona to get a bagel as a New Jersey guy. What was the toughest pitches, the toughest pitch to learn to throw growing up? What he's most excited for this upcoming season, how he can win a Cy Young Award this year. We talked a lot with Zac Gallen, asked him a bunch of questions. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow. But does that doesn't mean this next prediction is biased just because I talked to Zac Gallen and I have that video dropping tomorrow, because I've probably made this prediction the last couple years on this podcast, but I'm going to do it again. Zac Gallen will win the Cy Young Award in 2024. I don't care if it's my 3rd straight year making that prediction. One of these years is going to happen because he's been so close the last 2. Finalists this past year, a top 5 or 6 guy in 2022. And really, when you look at Zac Gallen the last 2 years, he's had really elite halves, but he hasn't been able to put together a fully elite season. 2022, second half, he had a 1.69 ERA. He had that that scoreless inning streak in the second half. Like Gallen 2022 elite second half, but 2023 elite first half where he was mowing down hitters. But in the second half of the season, hit that little slump where he just went sideways for no reason whatsoever. So for Gallen this year, I think he will have a full complete season, give you that 2022 second half with the 2023 first half, and that will get you a Cy Young season. Gallen currently fourth in odds at plus 1,400. Pretty good value on FanDuel. How about this next prediction? I think Corbin Carroll this season will join the 30 home run, 60 stolen base club. Maybe you guys think this is insane or a little bit too bold. We are going bold on today's podcast, but it's really not out the realm of possibility. I mean, he was already 25 home runs, 50 plus stolen bases as a rookie. So I'm just asking for like a few more home runs and just a few more stolen bases, because when you look at Corbin Carroll from last season, he had 18 home runs in the first 86 games, 7 home runs in the last 69 games. So if he just continued on the pace that he was in the first half last year, like Corbin Carroll would have had like 32, 33 home runs and might have potentially led the team in home runs. Like it could have been neck and neck between Christian Walker and Corbin Carroll. But of course, Corbin Carroll power department fell off a little bit in the second half of the season, but if he can somehow right the ship entering 2024 and just even out those numbers, I do think Corbin Carroll can get to 30 home runs this upcoming season, because he was on pace for that last year at the All-Star break. And then I also think Corbin Carroll, just overall as a player, is going to get a little bit better offensively. Now, maybe the league adjusts to him. That can also be the counter argument there, right? Playing devil's advocate as a sophomore. We know about the sophomore slump. Bigger scouting report on you now, but Corbin Carroll's a guy. I just trust him so much as a superstar. I think he will be getting a little bit better next. And because of that, I could see a few more home runs tallied up in that box score. And most importantly, I could just see him overall getting on base more. And if he's getting on base more, he's going to have more opportunity to steal bases. For him to get 60 bases, FanDuel has that at plus 450 right now, which I don't think is even that good of odds. Like, I don't even think what I'm saying is I don't even think you're getting tremendous value there. Plus 450, I don't think is tremendous value, which kind of means the league, FanDuel, kind of thinks Carroll has a pretty good shot to win. Or not to win, but to get to 60 stolen bases. At plus 450, I would probably say they think he has like a 33% chance to do it, which after a rookie season of 54 stolen bases, I think is a fine prediction for FanDuel. They have his over-under at 44.5 stolen bases. Like, I think everyone should go and smash that over right now if you want some money in your pocket. So go smash 44.5 stolen bases right now for Corbin Carroll. How about this one? This one I don't think is even bold once you say it out loud, but then you'll realize, you know what? Maybe it's a little bolder than I realize. Merl Kelly will finish top 8 in Cy Young voting this year. I don't think it's a crazy prediction, because I think Merl Kelly is a guy that's deserving of top 8 consideration. With how he's pitched the last 2 years, he should have already garnered a top 10 Cy Young voting or whatever, but he hasn't yet. Merl Kelly has never received a Cy Young vote. He's never received a last place vote. He's never received anything from the Cy Young race. And when you consider Merl Kelly, the last 2 years has basically been a 3.3 ERA, a guy that's pitching like 175 to 190 innings a season. Like, how could he not at least get one Cy Young vote? Like a guy last year, when you look at the field last year, like it was definitely loaded. The candidates were good. The top 8 guys all got votes, right? But when you look at the AL Cy Young, 12 guys got votes. In the NL, only 8 guys got votes. Like, I don't understand how Merl Kelly couldn't even get at least one vote from somebody in the National League. Like, Chris Martin of the Boston Red Sox last year got one Cy Young vote as a reliever. Yes, he had a 105 ERA, but he was a reliever who didn't even close games for the Boston Red Sox, and someone thought he deserved a Cy Young vote from the American League. You're telling me Merl Kelly didn't deserve to, finish at least 9th last year in the Cy Young race? I just think it's crazy that he hasn't even received a vote in his major league career. And I think that will change this season because after what Merl Kelly did in the postseason, I think he finally has respect around baseball. And if he continues to just replicate what he did the last 2 years, I think he will get a little bit of Cy Young love. Then the final prediction for this segment. This one's actually kind of wild, but based off spring training could be true. I kind of sneakily think Ryan Nelson will steal the number 5 job from Brandon Pfaadt. I'm talking about when you have your rotation fully healthy. I think that number 5 starter could be Ryan Nelson over Pfaadt. Pfaadt really struggled in the regular season last year, right? He got better in the postseason, but maybe Pfaadt just isn't ready just yet. Maybe he needs another season. Maybe next year Pfaadt is in that Ryan Nelson realm because Nelson, after this spring training, after everything we've seen this offseason, he seems like an improved and better pitcher. And so entering his third year with the Dbacks, maybe this is his time to finally break out and pitch effectively and pitch well. And I think from what we've seen so far, I think he could be a better pitcher right now than Brandon Pfaadt. And for Pfaadt, I think being the long reliever, spot starter, and then if Ryan Nelson goes down, or if maybe you want changing of the guard midseason, you could do that. But I'm also not afraid if Pfaadt just goes to the bullpen for the year or goes back to AAA for, a little bit. And then next year is the Pfaadt breakout season because as it currently stands, Ryan Nelson could just be better straight up than Pfaadt right now. And the D-backs are in win now mode. I think they're going to make the decision that leads to the most wins, and that might be Ryan Nelson over Brandon Pfaadt as your number 5 starter. Now we'll talk about some team predictions for the D-backs in segment number 2. But if you want to do some fantasy sports betting, the best place to do that, of course, is Prize Picks because football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. My favorite thing to do when the Lakers are playing is take LeBron over on rebounds and over on points. And when that cashes, I feel good. If you want to do the same, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. And let's talk about some team predictions. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, if you want to see more content by me, because I'm about to start going ham on social media once again. Now that the regular season is upon us, once the offseason hits, I try to be quiet on social media. But now that the regular season is back in full swing, I will be going hard on Twitter. So please follow me there at CareerThomas24 for the personal account. Look up Locked on Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. But now let's get back into the podcast and let's do some team predictions now for the D-backs entering 2024. The first prediction I want to talk about is the D-backs as a team will finish with at least 200 home runs this upcoming year. We know they added more power in the Suarez's, the Gritchicks, the Jock Petersons, and I think that will lead to a bigger output of power for the D-backs this upcoming season with a little bit of internal development as well with the Corbin Carrolls and the Gabriel Morenos of the world, potentially the Alec Thomas as well. I think the D-backs are going to hit way more home runs next season than they did this past year. Last year, the D-backs had 166 home runs as a team. So how do they get to 200? Well, if the D-backs literally just hit the same amount of home runs that they did last year, and then Jock and Suarez hit the same amount of home runs that they hit last year as well, now your team total is at 203. So if every D-backs player, including Suarez and Jock, just replicate what they did in 2023, you're already at 203 home runs. For context, the Cubs had 196 home runs with 6 guys between 20 and 26 home runs. I think the D-backs will definitely have potentially 6 guys between 20 and 26 home runs, because when you look at the lineup, Corbin Carroll, he's going to have 20 to 26. Like I just said, I thought he's going to have 30. Ketel Marte, he'll probably have around 25. Gurriel will probably be in that 20 home run range. Christian Walker will probably be in the high 30s. Jock, depending on how many games he plays, he could be 15 to 20 plus. Suarez could definitely be 20 plus. And then who knows? Can Gabriel Moreno get to 15? Can Alec Thomas get to double digits? The power upside of this D-backs team is so much greater than what it was the last season. And I'm super excited to see how much power this D-backs team actually has. And it's not just power they have, because I also think this D-backs team is going to finish second in the National League in steals. They finished second last year. I think the same thing is going to happen this year, because gotta first give respect to the Cincinnati Reds. They are supremely fast. They are probably the fastest team in the National League. They just have so many youngsters that can run. Spencer Steer, Jonathan India, Ella De La Cruz, TJ Friedel, Will Benson, Matt McClain, Jake Fraley. Like the Reds had like 7-8 dudes with like 15 stolen bases last year. Like, speed is the name of the game in Cincinnati. They run more than anyone else. They take more bases than anyone else. They will probably finish number 1, but I definitely think the D-backs will finish number 2, because D-backs, like their home runs, had 166 steals, which is kind of funny. Same amount of home runs and steals, but the steals could be going up and down next year. But regardless, I think they will finish second in the National League once again. And for the most part, they should probably be around that number once again. Carroll and Thomas could still get you around 80. Like, I think that combination could potentially get you more this season, because even if Carroll just gets you 50 once again, I think Thomas, he's the guy to watch out for. If he actually has a solid or a decent offensive season, that could mean just more opportunities on the bases, and maybe he gets like 12 to 20 stolen bases, because a guy like Jake McCarthy is barely playing, and he still gets you 20 plus stolen bases a year. So you got Carroll, Thomas, and then Jake the Rake still doing Jake the Rake things, with Domo, Christian Walker being really smart as a base runner. Ketel Marte's not a bad base runner. Gabriel Moreno isn't a bad base runner. And maybe a guy like Blaze Alexander, if he's on the team and backing up Perdomo. Like, if your name is Blaze, you have to be kind of quick. So if he's stealing some bases as well, I definitely think this D-backs team will finish second in steals. How about this one? D-backs will finish with top 3 lowest rotation ERA in the National League. Last season, D-back starters finished 10th in the NL in ERA. And I think this season, it's just going to be completely different. If Erod and Monty were in the mix last year with those ERAs, the D-backs probably would have already been top 3 in ERA in the National League. But Monty and Erod were not there last year. And guess what? They're not going to be there for the start of the regular season. But even with that being said, I'm not too worried. I actually have a good amount of confidence in the Henrys, the Fotts, and the Ryan Nelsons. I'm not saying those guys are elite, but I think they're good enough to hold it down until Erod and Monty get back. Then when Erod and Monty get back, it's a full go. That's going to be arguably the best rotation in Major League Baseball, and I think it'll be a top 3 lowest ERA, even with the first month being a little hit or miss, a little bit rocky because of half the rotation being hurt. I don't care. Full context, D-back staff will still finish top 3 in rotation ERA. And then final prediction of this segment, D-backs will have league average save percentage for the first time since 2019. This is a pretty safe bet, but it's been a while. It's been a half decade since we've seen the D-backs be able to close games, and Sewald will be out potentially a few weeks. But even with that being said, I think Ginkel is way improved from where he was earlier. Then a guy like Ryan Thompson as your setup man until then can also hold it down. Like, I think they're just better options in the back end of the bullpen for the D-backs to hold it down with a Sewald out. And then once he's back, you're absolutely set from that closer position. And even with Sewald being out, I do think there are potential swing guys in this bullpen, like A guy like Luis Frias, I'm really keeping an eye on. He's high on my radar as a potential breakout candidate for the D-backs this season. So even though Sewald could miss a few weeks, I'm not too worried about the D-backs bullpen closing games in 2024. Now we'll talk about some league predictions I have for this D-backs and the rest of Major League Baseball. But before we get into that, if you're going to watch D-backs games this season in person, of course, the best place you want to go is going to be GameTime, because GameTime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat on your phone before you buy. All-in pricing shows your total cost up front. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. So many ways to save money on tickets no matter when you buy. Last-minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy theater, and more. Zone deals where you pick the section and GameTime picks the seats for big-time savings. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the GameTime app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH, First Pitch, for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's end the pod with some league predictions. And the first prediction is still pertaining to the D-backs, of course. D-backs will finish the year with 88 to 89 wins and a positive run differential. Maybe it's not that crazy of a take, but the D-backs, 84 wins last year with a much improved team. I'm assuming adding Jock, Suarez, Erod, Monty, Gritchick should be, that's a win a player at least right there, right? So that should be at least 4 wins to get you to 88. And you had a minus 15 run differential. Like, if your rotation is 4 deep now with those really good starters, your lineup is now at least 7, potentially 8 deep. If Perdomo continues to look like an all-star, if Alek Thomas has a breakout season, like, your lineup could be 7, 8 men deep. Your bullpen is as trustworthy as it's been in a few years. Like, every phase of this D-backs team is pointing to the D-backs making the postseason, being a good regular season team, and then making noise once we get to the postseason. This D-backs team on FanDuel projected 84.5 wins right now. They've added 1 win since signing Jordan Montgomery. Maybe a little bit crazy. Maybe we should make that like 85.5. I don't know. The team coming off the World Series, dramatically better. That's okay. D-backs to make the playoffs, minus 113 now. When we used to do these pods, it was like plus 113 for the D-backs to make the playoffs. Now it's minus 113. So FanDuel thinks D-backs have more than a likely shot to make it to the postseason, and they should make it to the postseason. Their team overall really, really well balanced from the lineup to the rotation to the bullpen. You got high-end talent in the Carrolls, the Gallens, the Martes, right? You got complementary pieces in your Lords Gurriels of the world, your Ryan Thompsons of the world. Like, you got every kind of player you could want. You got veterans on the squad. You got youngsters on the squad. You got speed. You got power. You got defense. Like, every kind of player, every kind of phase of the game, the D-backs have an answer for every kind of problem. So this D-backs team better be a playoff contender and better make it to the postseason in 2024. And now let me tell you how I actually think the playoff bracket will shake down. This is my prediction for division winners and wildcard teams. The division winners will be the Braves in the NL East. Shocker to nobody. Their lineup, again, I was looking at it yesterday. More than half their lineup is like under 30. It's scary. They have like their top 7 guys are under 30. It's scary. The Braves are going to be around for a while. I'll say the Dodgers win the NL West because that's what the Dodgers do as a regular season team. Then I will say the Cubs win the NL Central. It was tough to choose, but I think the Cubs are probably the most well-balanced team that division from both offense and a pitching standpoint. Don't love the rotations in the NL Central. Then for the wild cards, I have Phillies, I have the D-backs, and then I'm going to put the San Diego Padres as that third team. I think they're going to have a big bounce back. I think Tatis is going to be maybe not the MVP or like most improved, but like almost like comeback player of the year, because to be honest, I do a lot of fantasy baseball drafts. Every time I take Tatis in the first 3 rounds, people are like, oh my God, Tatis is not that good. Tatis is overrated. He can never stay healthy. Look, he missed 1 season because of injuries and the PEDs. He came back last year late. And even though he only had like a 770 OPS, the floor for Tatis last year was still basically a 30-30 home run, a 30-30 season in 130 games. Like Tatis, a full season now healthy going into 2024, Tatis is going to have like 40 home runs and like 40 stolen bases. I think a monster season is incoming for Fernando Tatis. I think he's going to be the steal in most of my drafts. So I have Padres as that third wildcard team. The Marlins were a playoff team last year. It feels like they're not taking this season seriously. I don't know what's going on with the Marlins, so I think they're going to be out. The Central was a toss-up. I debated the Cardinals, but that rotation is just so old. I do like the lineup, though. Milwaukee, they traded away Corbin Burns. I think this is a transition year for them. Then I do think the Padres and Giants will be neck and neck. I just don't know who's going to take it. That's why I said the Padres. I just trust their lineup a lot more. I just think they have way more high-end talent in their lineup, and I think their rotation is comparable enough. So I would give the edge to the Padres, but I think everyone believes, and I also believe, the dark horse in the National League, at least in the wild card race, could be the Cincinnati Reds, and probably their division race too, because that division is so weak. The Reds, I just don't like their pitching staff. Their lineup could be the best in the National League with the depth, the speed, the ceiling. I really like the Reds lineup, but their pitching, I think, is what holds them back. I think the Reds will probably be like 84 wins and just on the outside of the postseason. And then final prediction for you guys. This is pertaining to the Dbacks home opener against the Colorado Rockies opening day. Dbacks versus Kyle Freeland. Dbacks will take down the Colorado Rockies. It will be a glorious day in Arizona as they win their first game of the season. No spoiler here. I think Zac Gallen will go out there and dominate the Colorado Rockies because that's what he should do. I like Nolan Jones. I drafted him on one of my teams, but that Rockies pitching staff is not good. I think their lineup will be fine, but how fine will they be outside of Coors Field? We'll see on Thursday night. Gallen is someone who you absolutely trust against a team like the Colorado Rockies. Gallen, I'm actually looking at it right now. He actually made 1 start against the Rockies in 2023, 6 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts. And guess what? I'm going to say exact stat line for Gallen once again on Thursday. 6 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts. I think the D-backs are going to win the game 5-2. Kyle Freeland, last year against the D-backs, 10 earned runs over 17 innings pitched in 2023. I think this is no series is easy, but I think the D-backs in Colorado to open the year, good omen for the D-backs, and I think they will win their opener series against the Colorado Rockies and go home opening day with a victory. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for that bonus episode dropping with Zac Gallen in the morning. And then I will be recording a podcast with Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies after the home opener. So that will either drop super late Thursday or really early Friday morning. I mean, I'll probably just post it as soon as we finish recording. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.